I don't want to give away too much, so I guess I'll say a few words about the new versions of the characters. Kirk is played by Chris Pine, and he really gives a good performance as young Kirk. He starts out being a little bit of a jerk. There's a scene of him as a kid that was in the trailer where he drives a 1966 Corvette off the side of a canyon, which I didn't know they had in Iowa. After he joins Starfleet, he isn't as much of a jerk, but he's cocky as all get out. But that's just showing the confidence that he had in himself that later made him a great captain. Spock is played by Zachary Quintos, the actor that's best known as Siler, the villain on Heroes. He is shown as a man at a crossroads in his life. He wants to be a disciplined Vulcan, but his love for his mother leaves a soft spot in his heart for his human side. He is a Vulcan that's having a much harder time dealing with his emotions than the others around him. I won't say what it is, but something happens halfway into the film that seriously puts his human side to the test. I would argue that this film is more about Spock than it is about Kirk, but you'll have to watch it to see what I mean. Another big spoiler is the fact that Spock has a love interest. I won't tell you who it is. I know that this is a big Hollywood production and marketing dictates that there has to be an element of romance, but I'm not sure if I like this direction. On one hand, it's good that Spock gets the girl for once instead of Kirk, but I think it may have made more sense to show the origins of Kirk's romance with Carol Marcus, which ultimately led to a son, as we saw in Star Trek II. The other characters are played just the right amount. I don't know all of their names, and I'm too lazy to look them up. All of them get their moments without overdoing it. And every one of them I thought hit their performance out of the park. McCoy, Uhura, Sulu, and Chekhov all gave the characters a welcome new face and new life, and Simon Pegg as Scotty was unbelievably funny. The villain is Nero, a big bad Romulan played by Eric Bana. He did a great job as well, and I love what Abrams did with this character. When you see it, you'll know what I mean, because the whole deal with Nero is a secondary story. It's not the driving plot of this film. The film is about Kirk and Spock and how it all began. Nero was great and Banner was brilliant, but you could take him out and replace him with any generic Trek villain and it's the same. The main thing with him is the plot point to introduce the time travel aspect. He's from the future, about 10 years after Star Trek Nemesis. Romulus has been destroyed by a star that went supernova. Spock was supposedly going to save the planet but failed. Nero and Spock are accidentally pulled back in time and Nero decides to go about destroying the Federation. The plot hole that drives me bananas is right here. He destroys the Kelvin, and then he disappears for 25 years before continuing his rampage. I heard that part of the movie was cut out for time that would have shown that he was captured by Klingons and put into that prison camp that Kirk and McCoy went to in Star Trek VI. But since it's not in the movie, it just leaves the question hanging in the air. Where did Nero go for 25 years? And yes, the rumors are true. Leonard Nimoy is in this movie as old Spock. Like I said, there's time travel involved. The plot kind of insults you at this point because Kirk is thrown out of the ship and sent in some sort of torpedo to an ice planet that is evidently a moon of Vulcan, but it looks a lot like Hoth from The Empire Strikes Back. He gets chased by a giant monster, and he just so happens to be within running distance of the cave where old Spock is holed up after being dumped there by Nero. This is a little too much of a coincidence. I know they had to get old Spock into the story somehow so that he could give the backstory as to who Nero was, but it was a little too convenient. I almost expected John Locke from Lost to come running out and make a speech about destiny. Even with all the plot holes, this was an excellent film. There have been so many old series that I loved as a child that have been made into current movies that were so drastically different that I was afraid the same thing would happen to this. Look at what they did with Lost in Space. And as excited as I am about Land of the Lost, they're going to do the same thing to it. But my fears about the future of Star Trek are put to rest. The movie is new, it's big Hollywood, but it also has all the elements of the classic series that made it great. I think that as a few sequels start to come out, we'll find that the series will finally be seen as more mainstream and not only have the cult following that it has seen in the past. I hope I didn't spoil it too much for you, and I hope that I was at least a little informative. I'm going to try to put more of these reviews online. Some of them may be for new films and some may be for films that have been out for a while. Anyway, my final word is go see Star Trek. I give it 3.5 stars. Thank you. Live long and prosper.